Welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the most fundamental parts of PHP, how it handles the conversation between a user's browser and your backend application. You could say this is where your code truly meets the web. So last time, we explored how PHP can read from and write to files on the server. That's a super powerful skill. But now, we're taking the next big step. We're going to move from static data to dynamic interaction by learning how to receive and process input directly from the web itself. Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the web's fundamental conversation, the request-response cycle. Then we'll peek inside what I like to call PHP's global mailboxes to see how it collects data. After that, we'll get practical, learning to process user forms and securely handle file uploads before we look at what's next on your developer journey. I really like this way of thinking about it. It's not just data packets and protocols, right? Every single time a user clicks a link or submits a form, they're starting a conversation. Your PHP script's job is to listen, understand what's being asked, and then reply correctly. So let's start with those fundamentals, the request-response conversation. This is the simple, elegant dance that honestly powers the entire web. It really is this straightforward. Your browser sends a request, maybe asking for a page or sending some data. Your server, which is running PHP, catches that request, does some work, and then sends a response back. That response could be an HTML page, maybe some JSON data, or an image. That's it. Every single thing you do online follows this exact pattern. Now, the two main ways browsers talk are GET and POST. Think of a GET request like a postcard. The message is written right there in the URL for everyone to see. It's perfect for retrieving information, like a search query. POST, on the other hand, is more like a sealed envelope. The data is hidden away in the request body, which makes it ideal for submitting sensitive information like passwords or, say, a long blog post. So how does our PHP script know how the browser is talking to it? Well, it checks the $server Superglobal. This is a special array that PHP fills with all sorts of metadata about the request. Things like the user's IP address, the path they requested, and, crucially, the request method. Was it GET, POST, or something else? It basically gives you the whole context for the conversation. Okay, so if the server knows how the browser is talking, how does PHP actually get the data? Well, that brings us to what I call PHP's global mailboxes. These are the ways it automatically collects and organizes all that incoming information for you. First up is $get. Whenever data is sent using the GET method, it shows up in the URL right after a question mark. PHP automatically parses this query string and neatly places all the key value pairs into the $get array, ready for you to use anywhere in your script. And here's a super simple example. If a user goes to a URL with $name equals Hannes at the end, our PHP script can instantly grab that value using $GET name. Now, pay close attention to that htmlspecialchars function. We'll come back to that because it is absolutely essential for security. Next is the $post array. It works just like $get, but it collects data that was sent in the body of a post request, which is typically what happens when a user submits a standard HTML form. The data isn't visible in the URL, but PHP grabs it all the same. In this example, you can see a best practice. We first check if the request method was actually POST, using our sb_server variable. If it was, then we can safely grab the name field from the sb_post array. And again, you see we're sanitizing that input with HTML special characters. This is a critical habit to build. Now, you might also stumble upon $_request. It's kind of a convenient mashup of $get, $post, and even $cookie data. And while that might seem easier, it's generally a bad idea. Why? Because you can't be sure where the data actually came from, and that ambiguity can open up some nasty security holes. So the key takeaway is be specific. Use $get and $post directly. And that's really the deal with these superglobals. They are incredibly powerful because they're available everywhere in your script without any extra work. But that power comes with real responsibility. The moment data leaves a user's browser, it becomes your job to handle it safely. This brings us perfectly to the most common use case for all of this: processing user forms. This is the main gateway for getting input from your users, and it's exactly where security becomes paramount. Let this one sink in. Honestly, if you only remember one thing today, make it this. This is the single most important rule of web development. Never, ever trust data that comes from a user. Assume it's malicious until you have proven it's safe through validation and sanitization. Input validation isn't optional, it's protection. One of your best tools for this is htmlspcialchars. Let's say an attacker tries to submit a comment with a malicious script tag in it. If you just echo that back to the page without thinking, the browser will execute their script. But htmlspcialchars turns characters like less than and greater than into harmless text, completely neutralizing the attack. You should use it every single time you display user-provided data. Okay, let's talk about something even more powerful, and because of that, even riskier: handling file uploads. Allowing users to upload files to your server is an amazing feature, but wow, it's also a major security risk if you don't handle it properly. Just like with form data, PHP has a dedicated superglobal for file uploads. It's called $_files. When a form with a file input is submitted, this array gets filled with all the information you need to process that uploaded file. So what's inside that array? For each file, PHP gives you its original name, its supposed type and size, and an error code to check if anything went wrong. But the most important piece of this puzzle is TMP_name. This is the temporary sandbox location on your server where PHP has stored the file, just waiting for you to validate it. So, what's the plan? First, you have to validate. Check the file size to make sure it's not a 10 GB monster. Check the file type to make sure it's actually an image and not a malicious script. And do not trust the type or name values from the $files array. Those can be faked. Once you've confirmed the file is safe, you must use the move uploaded file function. This is the only safe way to move the file from its temporary holding pen to its final secure home. And this is so crucial. A poorly handled file upload can literally allow an attacker to upload a malicious PHP script and take over your entire server. It's a huge risk. But by implementing strict validation and using the correct functions, you turn that potential vulnerability into a secure, robust feature. And that brings us to your path forward. Now that you've got a handle on how to receive and secure user input, what comes next? Well, now that your PHP application can actually process user input and file uploads, it's time to manage what happens next, storing state, maintaining sessions, and securing everything that moves between users and your server. How do you remember who a user is from one page to the next? That's what we're tackling next time. Continue your journey with PHP security and state management. This is Developer Roadmaps. Map your path, build your career.